Hi guys, good morning. So in the last night class, we discussed about spoofing category we completed, and also we started other attacks. So in the other attacks, we discussed about eavesdropping, social engineering, and also shoulder surfing. So from there we can continue. So next one is data exfiltration. So data exfiltration is basically exposing of the confidential data or leaking of the data is called as data exfiltration. So whatever confidential data, so there are different types of data classification we can do, every organization will do. So one is private data, second one is public data. Once again, critical data, non-critical data. So that critical data, non-critical data can be once again divided into internal, second one is private, third one is restricted. So in such a we can do the classification of the data. So before doing the classification of the data, so till 2021 or approximate 20, so everything we have to do manual, we have the classification of the data. So each and every stakeholder we have to coordinate, and also we have to collaborate, and we have to do the classification of the data. So, but classifying the data itself, it will take approximately 3 to 6 months. So we have to go and we have to speak with the HR team. So what is the classification of the data related to? So employees, background checks are maybe related to their documentation, verification part, and also experience documents or educational documents and so on. In the similar way, we have to go to the legal document. What are the patent rights, copyrights, trademarks? So those things we have to gather and we have to classify which one is confidential and which one is non-confidential or critical or non-critical. In the similar way, we have to go to the development team and whatever code they are developing. So we should make sure that which one is critical and which one is non-critical. In such a way, each and every stakeholder, we have to go and we have to ask what is critical and what is non-critical data. So, so doing this one, it will take a lot of time. So approximate, as I said, minimum 3 months also it will take to classify the data, which one is critical and which one is non-critical. And whoever is classifying the data, that particular person, we can call it as a data owner. And whoever is asking the questions, that person we can call data custodian, or whoever is accessing the data. Okay, now, so because of this machine learning capability and also behavioral pattern capability, in the past or activity or actions. So nowadays, whatever DLP tools we are using, data loss or data leak prevention, automatically these tool, it will identify. So classification of the data also based on the pattern and behavior, automatically it will classify the data is critical data or non-critical data. So now once we are installing the tool, it will take approximately 2 weeks time period. And finally, it will classify which one is critical and which one is non-critical. And also which one is once again private or internal. And second one is public, third one is restricted. So now these different types of data, attacker will try to use different types of techniques. And finally, attack will compromise the confidential data exposure is called as data exfiltration. So in-depth analysis, we can discuss part of our DLP. Anyway, endpoint security, under endpoint security, we are going to discuss DLP. So there I will provide in-depth analysis, what is data, what is classification of the data, what are the types of the data, and who will classify the data. So what are the different types of ways data can be leaked, then how the data can be prevented. Okay, so data exfiltration, leaking of the or breaching of the confidential data or sensitive data exposure is called as data exfiltration. So as we discussed yesterday itself, so organization point of view, we have three different types of the classification of the data. One is internal or private, second one is restricted, third one is public. So once again, data typing mechanisms or data mechanisms are critical and non-critical part. So that is on the organization point of view. So in the similar organization personal point of view, we have PII data. So that is part of GDPR complaints. Already we discussed yesterday. in the similar to PHA data. So these data also we have to create a policies in the endpoint security or maybe network DLP side as well. So on the endpoint side related to OS, in the similar network side, even possible on the cloud and wireless side also, we have created a policy and we should always block that particular confidential data whenever end user or malicious actors trying to access it. That may be through removable devices, that may be through emails, that may be through websites download or uploading of the websites, couple of files, or maybe through cloud instances also we are leaking the data. So these data we have to prevent it. So and always data is very, very important to the organization point of view. So how to mitigate this one now? Mitigation. So we have to implement obviously data loss or data leak prevention solutions. So if you are implementing on the endpoint side, network side, and also wireless side and cloud side, so at least we can reduce the risk to the organization side. Whatever data, either internal employee or maybe that is called insider threat or external attack is trying to leak the data. So here I'll keep endpoint DLP, network, cloud, and also up wireless side. So this is the way how the data can be prevented and blocked. Couple of policies also we have to create, like a peripheral control or removal devices control, and email related policy we have to create, cloud related policy, website related policy also we have to create. So because couple of times we'll upload a large amount of the data in the OneDrive or maybe Google Drive. So in this similar way, we will download the files as well. So we have to create one of the website policy as well. So that is about data exfiltration part. Next one, lateral movement. So lateral movement already we discussed part of MITRE ATT&CK framework. So if one system is getting compromised, the adversary through network or maybe through some other protocols, you'll compromise that infection will go to other systems as well. So that thing is called as a lateral movement. Attacker or advisory will compromise one system. From there, that infection will go to other systems as well. Is called as lateral movement. So whenever any attack it's happened, so we have to verify whether one system is got compromised or more than one system is got compromised. Also, we have to verify. So that particular process we can call it as a lateral movement. So how this process can be verified and where we have to verify? We have to verify firewall logs. So maybe one of the end user system is got compromised because of the malware category of the attack name is called virus. So from there, other systems also got compromised, maybe because of the worm. One system is got compromised, other system also got compromised. Maybe because of the phishing email related to spear phishing. One system is got compromised, maybe other system also got compromised. How the verification we can do? So other systems got compromised or not? We should verify the command and control attacker IP address. Whatever outbound connections are going from the impacted IP or victim IP, we have to take that particular IP address from our internal IP or private IP. So we have to see whether from one IP that particular outbound connections are going to the attacker or more than one private IP that outbound connections are going on. If one private IP communicating to the command and control attacker IP address, obviously we can conclude that it's only one system is got compromised. So if it is more than one system or more than one IP is communicating to command and control attacker IP address, So then obviously we can conclude more than one system is got compromised. So this is one of the practical scenario also. So one of the system is got compromised and it's keep on communicating to command and control server. In that scenario, how can you do the investigation part? So here we have to verify the attacker IP address related to malicious content attacker. So then from our internal IP, so just we can go to the firewall logs and source IP, we can give the attacker IP address. Destination IP, you can see whether one IP is communicating to attacker IP address or more than one IP it's communicating. If it's more than one IP it's communicating, so obviously we can conclude lateral movement it's happened and other system also got compromised. Later we can follow the NAST framework. So that is National Institute of Standard Technology or maybe ITL process. So Information Technology Infrastructure Library. According to that one, we can plan whether containment which should be required or not, and also what is the business impact analysis, and what is the risk is involved if it is causing more than one system is got compromised. So how we can make sure that data should be recorded back? Is it possible or not? First of all, in case malware category of the attack, we have to delete the files from the respective end user system and we have to reset the passwords. Scenario to scenario, basically this lateral movement scenario, it will vary. And according to that one, we can take the appropriate remediation steps or mitigation steps. So now how to mitigate this one now? Mitigation. So in the endpoint side, we have to implement because it's a generic one. So in the endpoint side, we have to implement antivirus or EDR or XDR in the similar way. So phishing email side, we have to implement email gateway or email security solutions. So next one, we have to implement on the perimeter side, next generation firewall, and we have to create a policy related to antivirus, anti-spam, URL filtering, private cloud URL filtering, DNS filtering, file filtering, voice over IP filtering, web application firewall, proxy, network IDS, network IPS, network DLP. So even Wi-Fi monitoring as well. So all these different types of policies we can configure in the perimeter next generation firewall side. And also even we can configure proxy. So any blocking websites end user is accessing or trying to bypass the activity. And also we can implement anti-malware or malware analysis tool. So network IDS, network IPS. So this is the way how we can take care of the lateral movement from endpoint network and application. Even cloud side also we have to implement couple of tools related to botnets. Okay. So this is the way how we can prevent lateral movement. Next one is the privilege escalation. So privilege escalation, privilege first of all, what is meant by privilege? So privilege is nothing but access. Granting the permission or giving the access is called as a privilege. So here privilege meaning here escalation part. Privilege escalation, escalating from one access to another access. Who will escalate one access to another access? Attacker will escalate. So every system contains the user level access, so service level access, or admin level access, or sudo level access, or root level of the access. In this scenario, what attacker will do? So escalation part. What is the least privilege? Obviously, it's the user privilege. So attacker will gain user level access. From there, he will escalate to higher level of the access related to admin or root level of the access is called as privilege escalation. So that may be possible through authentication failure category like brute force attack, or maybe password spray, or maybe rainbow table attack, or pass the hash attack, or broken access control, or broken authentication control. So these are all the different ways how the attacker will try to gain the access. Not only that one, even malware installing of the end user system or installing of the trojans to the end user system, attacker will get the initial access. From there, he will run the couple of other PowerShell executions or Python executions or Perl executions. Then he will gain the highest level of the access. So getting of the highest level of the access. in the organization of any system is called as privilege escalation. So how we can define this one now? So privilege is nothing but access or grants or permission. So for this one, we have PAM, Privilege Access Management Solution from Microsoft, and also HP and IBM, and also we have IAM, Identity and Access Management. So if you want to mitigate this one, we have to implement a role-based access control, privilege access control based on the time-wise, like a just-in-time. So in the similar way, we have to provide the segregation of duties, who is doing what. So then obviously we have different types of other access control like network access control, discretionary, mandatory access control. According to their roles and responsibilities or rule based, we can define the controls. So obviously, additionally, in case any malware infection is happening and attacker is gaining the access, then obviously you have to implement antivirus and EDR. Even if we have to implement a multi-factor authentication mechanism, strong password policies, complex password policies. This is the way how the privilege election can be reduced or mitigated. So attacker initially will gain lower level access. From there, attacker will gain higher level of the access is called as privilege escalation. So if you want to mitigate this one mitigations, so we have to implement RBAC, so role-based access control based on the end user or employee related, what is the roles and responsibilities he's handling. And also we can implement segregation of duties. So we have to segregate up with these. Take example, one of the application development, maybe take example of Facebook. Under the Facebook, there are a lot of repositories or libraries or packages will be developed by respective Facebook development company. So now whatever development module they are developing, so maybe couple of people they are working on Java, couple of people they are working on Angular, couple of people they are working on React to JS, couple of people they are working on full stack development or maybe C, C++, whatever module they are developing. So that particular module only we have to give the access. So that is the way how we can do the segregation of duties or segregating of their roles and responsibilities. So this is also one of the keyword we have to remember. So whatever repository they are developing or whatever code they are developing for their module, only for that one we have to give the access. So unless otherwise, he will not take any cross-functional training part. So third one, we have to implement multi-factor authentication. So attacker is trying to compromise something. So obviously we have to implement like OTPs or security questions or captchas. So even any other alternatives like RSA tokens. So multi-factor authentication we have to implement. Next one is strong or complex passwords has to implement. Under this one, we know already uppercase, lowercase, so character, special character, number. So, and also default passwords we should not use. So monthly once we have to change the passwords. And so consecutive passwords we should not repeat once again. So these things we have to implement under the strong password policy. Even password minimum length should be 12 to 16 characters nowadays instead of the 8 characters. So all those things will fall under the stronger complex password policies. So this is the way wherever it is possible, we have to implement. So respect to controls. And so even we have to implement. So additionally, in case the privilege escalation is possible through any malware infection or gaining the access, we have to implement antivirus or EDR or XDR solution as well. So in the similar way, we have to implement in the perimeter side next generation firewalls. So next attack, persistence. What is mean by persistent? Persistent general meaning is continuous monitoring. So attacker, he is still alive in the network, even though we are using lot of changing of the credentials, or maybe automatic restarts, or maybe still attacker will be available in the organization despite we are implementing lot of security solution. So that is like a persistent continuous monitoring. So I already given a couple of example in the past. So example, when we discussed about Maze ransomware attack is got compromised by Cognizant company. So that time initially attacker is injected Maze ransomware to each and every employee machine related to one of the file extension in 2019 or 20 and exploited by 2021 around April month. At the time of pandemic and corona, he exploited. So that is the way he monitored continuously approximate 1 year. Whenever any vulnerability or weakness it is identified, he exploited that Maze ransomware attack. Almost all the system is got compromised. So persistent general meaning it's like a continuous monitoring. So in our cybersecurity terminology, what is mean persistence attack? So attacker will still alive or still it is existing and still he will maintain the foothold of the so respective organization point of view. So even though we are changing our credentials or maybe we are implementing the our antivirus EDR solutions or maybe any other alternative solutions. So that particular process is called as persistence. Attacker will maintain foothold or else attacker will still existing in the network despite a lot of security controls implemented. So example, account manipulations. So restarting of the machines. So shutdowns. For example, we are upgrading one of the operating system or maybe we are maintaining the formatting of the system or we are restarting of the machine after changing the credentials. Still he will maintain the foothold. That particular concept is called persistence. How we can mitigate this one? So traditional antivirus will not work out persistence category of the attacks. That is the reason we have to maintain the EDR and XDR solution. As I said, one of the please shows practically using some related tools available with which help us like show FortiGate. Yeah, I can show all these tools once we are completing theoretical part. So here mitigation now. So as I said, one of the attack also we discussed Spectra and Meltdown. I'm not sure whether you remember or not. So Spectra and Meltdown in the memory chip also in 2019 and 2020, all the Intel based and also NVD based or NVIDIA companies and also microsemi companies, Qualcomm companies, whatever chip designing they are developing. So even in the memory also, they identified one of the malware category of the attack that is called Spectra and Meltdown oriented malware. So traditional antivirus will not identify these type of attacks. So if you are using so behavioral pattern mechanism or in the past, whatever type of attack it's happening, please remember this attack also Spectra and Meltdown. It's one of the vulnerability and this caused a lot of business loss across the worldwide. So this was there in the news once again in 2023 as well. Once again, it is repeated for Intel based chips, whatever they are developing. So that is the reason now EDR and XDR came into picture to mitigate and to also identify at least forget about signature based. So at least what is the action is doing by the attacker, and what the behavior and what is the activity end user is doing, and how the action is provided, and is there any malicious activity is going on. At least it will throw any alert notification. It's a first time activity. Whenever any first time activity or abnormal activity it's happening, so obviously automatically machine can be understand. So some of the illegal activities going on our network or end user machines or application side, then it will throw any alert notification to us as a so SOC team. We have to go and we have to take care of the analysis side. So that is like a UBA concept in so SIM tool side, and machine learning or behavioral pattern in endpoint or network or application or cloud side. So these things we have to implement in our tools. So anyway, now generative AI also coming. That is also one of the advanced technology. It will identify the unknown category of the attacks. So antivirus, EDR, XDR. So we have to implement next generation firewalls. We have to implement email gateways or email security solutions. Then we have to implement network IDs, network IPS. So that is our mitigation. Next one is defense evasion. So defense evasion meaning here, so attacker will hide. So his footprint basically. So even though he's existing, he will hide to all these whatever solutions we are using. So that particular process is called as defense evasion. Attacker will hide from the solutions we are using, and also he will maintain the network. So to mitigate this one, as I said yesterday also, this one I will add one more solution here, ATP, Advanced Threat Prevention. So nowadays, all EDR solutions and network security solutions and the web security solutions has a by default function is called ATP, that is called Advanced Threat Prevention. So now here, same thing, same as it is, we have to implement all these solution to mitigate defense evasion techniques. So next attack is APT, Advanced Persistent Threat. So please remember, APT is an attack and ATP is a solution. So initially even I got confusion, both APT and ATP are same, but it is different. So APT is attack. This one already we discussed part of our cybersecurity definition. I'm not sure whether you remember. Yes, it's right. So advanced persistent threat. So till 2017 or 18, before next generation firewall or next generation EDR came into picture, one file if you want to scan, it will take approximate 15 minutes. So you can consider per one day how many files here and there it will go as inbound email or outbound email, even uploading of the emails or downloading of the emails, even accessing of the emails by the each and every employee in the organization. It's like so millions or maybe okay, so thousands and so on, or 1 lakh and so on. Those many files, how our EDR tool or firewall can be scanned and it will give the verdict. In case one file is itself, it is taking scanning approximate 15 minutes. So that is the drawback. It is existing up to 2016 or maybe 2015 or 17. So thereafter, what each and every vendor has done, so it will not work out in this way. For every whatever sampling of the malware, it is appearing as a sandboxing environment, scanning of the file and giving the verdict whether that file contains any malware is existing or not. It will take longer time. So later, their inspection of the respective malware using static analysis of the malware and dynamic analysis of the malware. So they have developed their products or vendors or tools. So whenever any file is entering into the organization side, automatically it has to scan within the 15 seconds to 30 seconds, and it will give verdict stating that any file contains any malware infection is existing or not. So that particular process is called as a ATP, Advanced Threat Prevention Capability. But whatever issue it is identified, it is like unknown category. So nowadays, whatever attacks are coming into the organization side also, 30% of the attacks are only known category of the attacks, nothing but those category of the attacks as signature. Remaining 70% of the attacks, so daily basis or regular basis, so using threat intelligence feeds we'll receive regularly. These attacks are completely unknown category and it does not contain any signature. In that scenario, obviously what we have to do, so there every vendor R&D team, so research and development team or engineering team, so they will, whatever attack it is there in the news, they will go and they will identify, is there any zero day vulnerability, or is there any malware, or is there any ransomware, or is there any trojan. In such a way they can do their infection and they will try to do the exploitation or enumeration part, is really it is possible to hack or not. In case it is possible, immediately they will release the patch, or maybe they will provide the solution related to alternative or temporary. So this is what yesterday one of the attack what it is there in the Google Chrome web browser, whoever version using 128.0.116 something. So that version is got compromised. So same thing. So here APT is like advanced persistent threats. Most of the attacks, what I want to try to say here, most of the attacks, whatever it is appearing into the organization side is like unknown category. Those category, if you want to migrate or convert into known category, we have to implement our hardware solutions or software solution, whatever we are using. For that one, we have to change our development side and identification and also detection mechanisms also we have to change according to the trending technology or trending, okay, so tools whatever available in the market. So now advance, so attacker will use advanced features or techniques, persistent, so nothing but continuous monitoring, threat, vulnerability exploitation. So attacker will use advanced techniques and continuous monitoring. Finally, he will do the identification of the vulnerability and he will try to exploit that vulnerability. That is called APT, advanced persistent threat. Attacker will use advanced tactics, techniques, and he will monitor continuously targeted machine or network. And finally, whenever any weakness or vulnerability identified, attacker will exploit the vulnerability. In such a way, attacker will gain unauthorized access or sensitive data exposure. So that is called APT attack. Now, if you want to mitigate this one, mitigations, so we have to implement ATP solutions. So this ATP solutions dedicated to malware side, we have malware analysis tool like FI or SourceFire or Tipping Point or malware analysis tools. even next generation firewalls and malware analysis tools and the anti-malware solutions has this particular feature. Even nowadays, EDR also is coming with ATP prevention capability. So even web application firewalls has this ATP capability related to application layer side. So all the network IDs, network IPs, everything. So in such a we can mitigate these APT. There are so many APT attacks will be there in the news. So APT 32, APT 33, APT 15, all these are hacking group names. All are most of the hacking group names from China only. So we have APT 32. It was there in the news yesterday. It's one of the blocksmith malware category of the attack. So on the Iranian and Israel based public sector companies like all the ministries, all the public sector companies, all the parliamentary and other vectors, this blocksmith malware is got compromised by respect to APT 32. So that is the hacking group name. So in the similar way, there are so many other hacking group names like APT 56, APT 42. There are so many. So these are all like advanced persistent threat hacking group name. Most of the hacking groups basically from the China only. So even we have seen Akira ransomware attack and also regular ransomware attack. And also we have seen Eternal Blue, Eternal Romance, so Maze. So all these are different types of hacking group names. Even Dragon, Blacksmith, and Rat. There are so many. Okay, so all these are hacking group names. They are basically use advanced persistent threat capability part. So that is about APT. Next attack is golden ticket attack. Give me 1 second. Sorry, guys. So a golden ticket attack. So and also silver ticket attack. These two attacks from Capgemini point of view, and also UST Global, and next one is Mindtree. So these three companies will ask this question: what is golden ticket attack and silver ticket attack? So what is golden ticket or silver ticket attack? Both are applicable to authentication side related to Active Directory and domain controller. So Active Directory compromise is called as a golden ticket attack using Kerberos authentication protocol. So before going to golden ticket and silver ticket attack, I want to explain about couple of authentication mechanisms. So already I think we discussed this one. I will repeat once again. On the endpoint security side or endpoint side. So what are the different types of authentication mechanisms we will use? So we will use SAML authentication mechanism. This is one of the authentication. Whenever any employee is giving the username and password, so it will use so SAML authentication mechanism. In the similar NTLM authentication mechanism. So these two are completely one side only. Just it will validate by the domain controller whether the user is available in the organization domain or not, whether end user is available in the domain or not. So third one is these are all one side validation only. It will not do mutual authentication between client and server. It will not exchange any ticket granting service or ticket granting key or ticket granting ticket. So it will not exchange any keys in between end user and also backend Active Directory or domain controller. So it's so like a one side authentication mechanism only. So next one, we have one more Kerberos. Kerberos is a mutual authentication mechanism in between end user and also backend domain controller. All these authentication mechanisms can be configured by our Windows admin team or sysadmin team. So how the Active Directory configuration, creating the Active Directory groups. In the similar way, whenever any employee is onboarding at the time of the giving the asset, so they will create their username part of the domain. In case they don't create part of the domain, obviously he can't access it. So Kerberos, it is a mutual authentication mechanism. It will use, yes, all our Windows related system. So it will use authentication mechanism related to port number 88 with the mutual authentication. So here we have three different types of services it will use. One is TGT, ticket granting ticket. One is TGS, ticket granting service. And one more is TGS, ticket granting server. So in between end user and also backend domain controller. So ticket granting server, it will use one of the service. That service is called as a ticket granting service, and it will assign every time one of the token to end user. So whenever this token is matching to the domain controller token, then only authentication or negotiation will be so exchanged, and finally so communication and authentication will happen. So these are all the three different types of authentication mechanism which can be used on the endpoint side. So second one is on the network side. So in the networking side, we can use two different types of remote daily access user and also access authentication mechanism. So if you want to configure any firewall, load balancer, or maybe any router or switch, or maybe even network IDS, network IPS, or network proxy, in that scenario, we have to configure two different types of network related servers. Those servers are Radius. So second one is Taxos Plus. So these two from Cisco oriented protocol only. Remote access dial-in user system in the similar way, terminal access control access service agent. So these two from the networking side. If you want to authenticate on the network side, we have to use these two servers. On the application side, someone is already pinged. So application side, we can use the three different types of authentication mechanism. One is SAML authentication mechanism we can use using HTTP request and also HTTP response. In this similar way, we can use OAuth 2.0 protocol with OpenID Connect. So next one is JWT token based authentication mechanism. So these three things we can use part of the application side. So application side authentication is different. Network side authentication is different. Endpoint side authentication is different. Okay, so now we are discussing these things we can discuss when the topic we are moving to network security and also application security. Right now we are discussing about, okay, so endpoint side authentication related to Active Directory and domain controller part. So here SAML, NTLM and Kerberos, these are all the three different authentication mechanisms we can use part of the endpoint side. Now what attacker will do, golden ticket attack side, attacker will compromise directly Active Directory itself. So then whenever end user is trying to access the Active Directory, so on behalf of the Active Directory, end user will respond back in such a way, attacker will gain the unauthorized access. So that particular attack is called as golden ticket attack. Okay. So for this one, it will use Kerberos authentication protocol as well. So attacker will compromise Active Directory using Kerberos authentication protocol is called as golden ticket attack. Then how we can mitigate this one now? So as I said, already we discussed about hardening benchmark. I'm not sure how many people remember. Forget about hardening benchmark. Any server, if you want to prevent, we have to implement lot of controls. Any server, if you want to prevent, either Windows or maybe Unix operating system server. So what are the different types of things we have to implement? Obviously, we have to implement so strong or password policies we have to implement, and also we have to implement multi-factor authentication, and we should not use default passwords. Whenever any server we are purchasing, by default they will give so default username and password as a either demo or admin. So we should change obviously the default passwords. Then we have to implement hardening benchmark. Initial security configurations or implementations we have to implement on the server side so that it will reduce the attack vector and attack complexity, or at least it will minimize the risk related to asset or server, because Active Directory also one of the server by the way. So now additionally we have to implement role based access control, and we have to create wherever it is possible user accounts, service accounts, admin accounts, and those accounts wherever it is applicable we have to assign those roles only. Then even we have to implement antivirus and EDR DLP to the server as well. So because don't think like, okay, so malware category of the attacks, it will not happen to server. In the server also, we have to implement antivirus or EDR or XDR agent and DLP agent. Even we have to take care of the disk encryption. Whatever disks we are using or operating system we are using, we have to implement encryption using any password or key. So that is like a disk encryption we have to implement. Last but not least, even one more thing is whatever logs are generating. So those logs, yeah, AA server also will fall under the so networking only. So under the Radius server, Radius and Access both. So here AD using even logs, whatever logs are generated, those logs we have to integrate it to collector agent method, and we have to create a couple of possible use cases in the Active Directory or any other server. Account is added, account is created, account is modified, account is updated, account is deleted. So we should think like attacker is compromised our server and he deleted existing service accounts or user accounts, and he created newly admin account or user accounts and service account. That is the reason all these use cases we have to create, and these logs we have to integrate it sim tool, and each and every use case also we have to define so that we can reduce our okay so minimality or criticality of the any server is got compromised. So how we can mitigate now this one? So there are a lot of controls we can implement. As I said, RBAC control we can implement. This is directly or indirectly, it is applicable to how to protect a server also. So I'm covering that one also here itself. Multi-factor authentication. So strong or complex password policies. So under that one, there are so many things. I'm not repeating all those once again. So minimum character length and also uppercase, lowercase. So character number. Okay. So default password should not use for servers. Next one, implement CIS benchmark, hardening benchmark, and implement antivirus or EDR, XDR, DLP, and also implement encryption capability related to disk or data at rest. So here data at rest. So finally, integrate all the logs to SIM tool. And after integrating, it's not sufficient. What we have to do, we have to create a respect use cases. Create a use cases. So what are the different use cases we can create? We can create brute force attack or password spray or pass the hash, all these authentication failure category. Along with that one, account is added, account is updated, account is manipulated, account is created, account is deleted. All these, okay, so different types of use cases we can implement. So next one is silver ticket attack. This also we discussed already initially when we discussed about all these definitions. So now, whenever end user is, it's basically Kerberos and it will use mutual authentication mechanism. So how it will happen? I will draw diagram now. So this is end user and is a part of the Active Directory domain controller. In case couple of times what will happen whenever IT team or asset team they are giving the laptop to us, so we have to verify whether really you are part of the domain. So a couple of times it will do like you are not a part of the domain and you will get the error. Now you have to call back to the service desk team or help desk team stating that I'm not able to log in. Why? Because you are not able to part of the domain controller. They will forget to configure part of your domain. Okay, so domain in the sense here, if it is TCS, TCS domain, Google is Google domain, in Wipro is Wipro domain, Cognizant, Cognizant domain, and so on. So now this is our domain controller, our Active Directory part. So in between these two now, any negotiations will happen. So normally if you are using SAML NTLM authentication, just it's only one way of authentication. So only Active Directory or backend server only it will validate whenever the end user is providing credentials. So whether the end user is existing in our domain or not. So that is SAML or NTLM authentication. But on the other hand, as I said, Kerberos, it's a mutual authentication. And in between these two, we have to open the port number 88. So now whenever end user is providing the username and password, additionally, there are three different types of servers. It will appear here. This is called TGS, ticket granting server. It will use one of the service name is called as TGS. Once again, ticket granting service. And also it will use one more another word or key, TGT, ticket granting token or ticket granting key, TGT or TGK. So now end user is giving respect to username and password. So that request will go to TGS and TGS it will allocate one of the key simultaneously to end user system in the similar way to domain control and Active Directory. So now in between the end user and also backend, this particular Active Directory and domain controller, whenever negotiations will happen using this TGK. So using this TGK, negotiations will happen and both the keys will match. So for example, you are locking your door. So with another key, if you are unlocking, whether it is able to unlock, obviously it is unable to unlock. Whatever key you are used to for locking of your door, with the same key you are unlocking, then only you can open the door. Same way, whatever ticket or ticket granting key is assigned to end user in the similar Active Directory, if the same key negotiations will happen, this matching, then only authentication should be approved by the Active Directory or domain control. Otherwise, it will not accept it. So that is the way how the negotiation will happen, and mutually both end user and also backend. So domain control it will understand, and in such a way, so communication mechanism will happen, and finally end user is able to access the respect to any end user machine or any host machine. So now this is a normal process. Now what attacker will do in this scenario, he will compromise TGS or TGK or TGS also, any one of the parameter he will compromise. So on behalf of now, so TGS he will generate one of the key, and he will access to he will communicate to the end user. In such a way, end user will gain the unauthorized access or command and control server access. So that is called as silver ticket attack. So how we can define this one now? Attacker will compromise TGS service or TGK or TGS service or server. And on behalf of TGS service, attacker will generate the token or key and he will exchange the keys with Active Directory, and in such a way attacker will gain unauthorized access to end user system or else Active Directory. So it is almost like a spoofing category. So he will come as impersonating of the TGS service or TGS key. So now attacker will gain the unauthorized access, and on behalf of TGS service, he will send the request, and in such a way he'll gain the unauthorized access. So if you want to mitigate this one, same thing. So it is like a simple, in future we'll discuss about SSL TLS mutual authentication. So same concept is applicable here. That concept we can discuss part of our application security. So whenever end user is giving any website access, keys will be exchanged. So like a symmetric and asymmetric keys. So same thing, we have to implement all these access controls on the TGS server side as well. Okay, so these are the mitigations we have to implement on the Active Directory. Not only on the Active Directory, even we have to implement on the TGS service side as well. So, and one more thing is we have to create a policy. Yes, we have to create a one of the policy in the uh, our Active Directory as well. Not Active Directory, Active Directory use case in our SIM tool. So each and every log source logs whatever we are integrating. So log source wise also we have to create use cases. What is mean by this one? So just now we discussed. So server side. So account added, deleted, updated, modified, or created. So all the use case we created on the server side, and we have to monitor 24/7. In the similar way, so take example on the DLP side. DLP side, so large amount of the data is uploading in the OneDrive or Google Drive, or large amount of the data is downloading from OneDrive and Google Drive, or maybe copying of some of the data to end user system, or maybe sending of the large amount of the data through personal to professional email ID, in this professional to personal email ID. In the similar way, so accessing any website or uploading couple of the data in the any social network websites like a LinkedIn or maybe Facebook or Twitter, Instagram. So even so uploading of the large amount of data in the cloud as well. So these are all the DLP use cases. So in the similar way, email gateway use cases or log source use cases. So spear phishing, malicious URL link, malicious malware attachment, so whaling, wishing, even quishing as well. So in such each and every log source wise, we can go and we can create use cases, and all these logs we have to integrate it to SIM tool. So that is the reason out of box use cases we have to create. So that's all for today morning class. So I think I completed almost all. In case if I missed out anything, so wherever the topic it will come, so there I can discuss. And only voice top 10 are pending. There we can discuss about around 10 to 15 in between. So here we discussed about 54 to 53, and there we are going to discuss around so 10 to 15. Almost we have around 65 to 70 in between. So these 65-70 attacks only regularly will come to our EDR tool or maybe firewall or proxy or our cybersecurity SIM tool as well. Regularly, these attack only will take care of the respective instant investigation. Only one thing I missed out is VPN authentication failure. So VPN authentication failure, we will discuss about part of our firewall. Yesterday, I already said. So we can discuss about site-to-site and remote VPN. So these are all the, okay, so attacks you should aware of. Each and every attack, it will follow cyber killing process. So every attack you should understand. So how the cyber killing process will work. So in our next interviews also, in mock interviews, maybe I will ask one of the ransomware attack. Explain about ransomware attack using cyber killing process. Explain about DOS attack using cyber killing process. Explain about cross-site scripting using cyber killing process. So now you should aware of the cyber killing process, all the 7 steps, along with the definition of the each and every attack. Then only you can correlate to both. So nowadays their interviews are not like straightforward way. What is mean by this one? They will not ask couple of interviews. They will ask directly what is mean cyber killing process. But couple of times they will ask like take one of the practical example of any of the attack, or that may be malware, or maybe phishing email, that may be DOS, or maybe cross-site scripting, or SQL injection attack, or brute force attack. So any attack, and using cyber killing process, explain the overall steps. In the recon phase, what will happen? In the weaponization phase, what will happen? In the transport and delivery, what will happen? In the installation, exploitation, so command and control and actions on objective. So this is the way how the, so real-time world or practical. This is called practically basically. This is called practical or real-time scenario world. Okay. So one more thing is command and control. So command and control is nothing but already it's a attacker remote control machine or server. He will control our machines or assets or any endpoints. So obviously whoever is controlling that person, we can call as a command and control server or bot header or attacker. And whatever machines are got compromised, we can call it as zombies. Okay. Or otherwise bots as well. So that's all for today morning, guys. I will go and I will refer in case I missed out something. In case if anything I missed out, we can discuss first 10 to 15 minutes today evening class. Later we'll go to endpoint security. So under endpoint security, we can discuss before going to endpoint security. I want to explain about how to get the projects. Today, I will explain about only that one. Tomorrow morning only, I will start about endpoint security solutions. Okay. So that's all for today morning, guys. Do you have any questions?
C2 attack and bot attack is same, right?
Yeah, C2 attack is indirectly, it's nothing but bot header attack only, you are right.
And when we are talking about the AAA server, it is only for the network level or any other one like
Only network level, radius, and also, so taxes, it will use these AAA. Yeah.
So for if at all we are, if we want to use for the endpoint level or the application level, which server we do use?
So in the server side, we will not use except TGS ticket granting server only we will use. So remaining everything on the backend Active Directory and domain controller will configure. So there we'll configure SML authentication, NTLM authentication. In case Kerberos, obviously backend Active Directory and domain controller. There are no other servers we will use on the endpoint side. On the application side also, so wherever web server we are configuring, there we have to configure WATH 2.0, example Apache Tomcat or NGINX, Nignix, and also we have Unix related Red Hat Enterprise Linux servers are there. There we can define the authentication mechanism on the end user application protocol, and also using token based authentication on the application side. There also will not use any servers except AA server we will use on the network side.
Okay.
Any other? Okay, guys, then thank you so much, and see you evening at 7 p.m. IST. Pawan, are you there in the class? Pawan. Okay, fine, guys. Then see you at 7 p.m. IST today evening. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Good day. Bye.
Thanks.